Well, all right, Felicia, thank you so much. Guys, I have on my screen here our finished project. We are going to do a deep dive into Design Space. It's a little bit more than just the basics. So we're going to talk about the canvas today. And at the end of class, we'll be able to assemble this card. So I thought it would be best to start out with the finished project and the materials you'll need. Now, this card here I made with 4 different pieces of cardstock, a blue, 2 shades of yellow, and white. For the class, when I start to assemble, I'm actually going to use Cricut's Smart Paper Cardstock. Because I'm using cardstock, I did use a blue cutting mat, which is the light grip mat. You might want to have your paper trimmer handy if you have one of those. And then you'll need some adhesives to assemble your project. If you have a Cricut pen, you'll want to use a Cricut pen. We also can, the message inside you can write by hand, or you can cut it out of the same paper. I almost said fabric, the same paper we cut out spring with. If you are on a maker, you can use your scoring wheel. If you're on a Explore or Maker, you can use the Cricut stylus. Now, if you're on a Cricut Joy, the stylus is not an option on the Cricut Joy, so I will show you how to score your card without having the stylus. All right, so that's where we're going. Now, as Anita mentioned, we don't have the Q&A open, but I have, oops, let me show my video. I have Anita with me from the Michaels Customer Care Department, and she is ready to answer the questions that we have throughout the class. So you can just drop those in the Q&A, and if they catch my eye and they're relevant to the entire class, I will try and answer them live. All right, so the first part of the class, we are going to do a presentation using PowerPoint slides, and I'm going to go through a deeper dive into Design Space. So you might want to have a pen and some paper handy to jot down notes. We will be I'll make the presentation as relevant to the project we're going to make. So you're going to learn as we work together. Once I'm done with the presentation, we'll go into Design Space together. If you're going to craft along with me, we'll do that together. Otherwise, you can just watch along and watch the recording later, pause and stop as you go along to craft your own card. So I guess let's just go ahead and do the dive into the presentation. Now, I will go a little bit faster on the presentation, 1, because the class is recorded, and 2, because I want to make sure I have enough time to do the project with you. So I might go a little bit fast, but then we'll slow down as we go into the Design Space. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. Here we are. Okay, so this is the Cricut class with Michaels Beyond the Basics Design Space. Now, when you Design Space is the software that you use with your Cricut machine, and it is compatible with your desktop or your laptop. You can use it on a mobile device and a tablet device. It's also Android and iOS, so either operating system. And to be honest with you, I have the Cricut app on my phone, on my tablet, on my desktop, and my laptop. So that way I can craft wherever I am, and it just kind of goes around the house with me. So I'll be using the desktop version of Design Space. There's a few differences between your desktop version and your mobile versions. But when you think about Design Space, it's like your command central. There's a home screen that allows you to navigate through Design Space, and that's what you see on this screen here. And it allows you to do on the home screen a universal keyword search, and you can search for images, for projects, for community profiles, and projects within the community. Now, as we go into Design Space, we're going to go into the canvas, and that's really where we're going to focus our attention today. The canvas it's a blank place for you to begin creating. So whether you're on, again, a desktop like I am today, or a laptop, or your mobile device, this is what the canvas will look like on a mobile device. And all of the icons along the bottom here That's when I say like, oh, go to the edit bar, find the images. Those are all going to be along the bottom of your mobile device. And if you're joining from a tablet device, you have a little bit more real estate. So your icons are spread out a little bit more. On your desktop or laptop, they are around your entire screen. So you have a lot more canvas to work with because you have a bigger monitor and more space to work with. So let's just do a quick reminder tour of the Design Space canvas. So Design Space, remember, is the software. It's up in the cloud, and you can use it on all your different devices. And you only need one account with Design Space. Now, on the left side here, we have the design panel. The design panel is where you go to insert onto your canvas, and you can insert a project, you can insert images, text, anything you want to add to your canvas. It's going to be in this left panel here, the design panel, and that's on your left side. Now, as you work your way across the canvas, if you have images on your canvas, your edit features become active. So up here are all the edit icons for how to manipulate your image on your canvas. If you're on a mobile device, that edit feature will be along the bottom, and you have to hit the edit icon, and then your edit toolbar shows up. But in the edit section, this is where anytime you want to change or manipulate the image or layer on your canvas, you're going to head up to this edit bar. And this will allow you to change the color of your layer. You can flip and rotate it. You can change the size of your layer, move it around on your canvas. All that will happen up here in the top. Now, on the right side over here, this is the layers panel. The layers panel is, I think of it like a 7-layer taco dip, where you have your base layer of refried beans, and then you build up your taco dip on top of it until you get to your cheese layer up on the top. Every time you add a layer from the design panel, it will show up in the layers panel. So if you add a shape, that shape will show up in the layers panel, and they come in at the top layer. So if I were to add another shape or another image onto my canvas, it's going to show up at the top of my layers panel. And these layers stack on top of each other. You can move them around in the layers panel by simply dragging and dropping them above or below a layer. And then at the bottom of your, at the bottom of your layers panel here are the action icons. Now, actions are ways that you can manipulate a layer or multiple layers. So when you have multiple layers selected, different action icons become available. And we'll get into those in a little bit. But that's your tour of your design space. So you have, I always kind of think of it starting on the left side, adding something to my canvas, editing that image or shape on my canvas, and then working with the layers and manipulating those layers on this right side here. Now I'm going to take us back over to that design panel. And in this class, we're going to focus on 3 pieces of the design panel. We'll focus on shapes, images, and text. So when you click on the shapes icon, you have options to choose different shapes. So you can select a shape by clicking on it, and it will appear on your canvas. Once that shape is on your canvas and you see these little, it's called a bounding box around the shape. So no matter what shape you have on your canvas, you'll see that you'll have a bounding box around that shape. And the bounding box has these 4 little white corners, and you can use those to adjust and change the size or rotate your shape right on your canvas. It's also your clue that you have that layer selected. So if some things aren't showing up, it means that you don't have the right layer or the right amount of layers showing up. So if you look up here in my edit bar, this tool called Align is grayed out. I can't use that. Now I have my square selected, but that edit function is grayed out. That's because I need two shapes to align to each other. So if I had two shapes on my canvas, both of those layers were selected, then my align feature would show up. So once you have your layer selected, you can work in your edit section up here. All these tools become active and you can change the color, again, change your size, rotate, all those kind of fun things. Now, in our class today, we are going to be making a card. So I took my square, just going to step back here. I took the square that I added to my canvas and I changed that size to a rectangle, and I added another layer onto my canvas from the shapes icon over here. I added this dotted line. And this dotted line is actually the score line that would go in the middle of my card. Now, because I want that score line to show up on my, I want that to stay right where I have it. So like, think of it like I want to staple that right to my card. I have to attach that line to the rectangle so that when I send it over to my machine, it will stay together. So this is where these fun action icons down at the bottom of your layers panel become part of your work process. Because you want this dotted line, the score line, to stay in the middle of the card, I'd go down to my action icons down here and attach it together like a staple. So your action icons in your layers panel, your slice, your combine, your attach, your flatten, and contour all work when you have multiple layers on your canvas that you need to work with each other. And each one's a little bit different, but you need them to work with the two layers together. So I would have both of these layers selected, and I can see in my layers panel that I have both layers selected, and I would select attach, and that would hold those two layers together. I could resize the layers, I can move them around the canvas. They're going to be stuck together, and that's the attach function. Now, if you want to add to your canvas, you can keep adding to it. So if I'm going to go back over to my design panel and add an image to my canvas, I did a keyword search for the word daisy, and I found a daisy that I liked. So what I need to do to insert an image onto your canvas, you do your keyword search, browse through your images. I have 905 daisy images, which is not enough. You can always use more daisies. I have 905 daisy images to choose from. Once I've selected one, I click on it and this green bounding box appears. Now I'm a Cricut Access member, so this little A flag in the corner lets me know that this is part of my Cricut Access plan. If I didn't have Cricut Access plan, I would use the filters and look for maybe a free daisy that I wanted to work with or a different image. Or I could purchase the image a la carte, and I would use that image. Once you purchase that image becomes part of your digital library of images and content that you can use over and over again. Then you go down to the bottom here and click Add to Canvas. So we're going to add that image of the square with the daisy in it to my canvas to be the front of the card. But now my yellows, I have too much yellow on my canvas. So maybe I want to change the color of a layer. And I select the rectangle layer and I go back up to the edit panel here. Now this box here sometimes it's usually a gray color because when you add images to your canvas, it begins with a dark gray color. But when you click on the box, the material colors drop-down menu appears and you can select the color you want to change it to. Now, you don't have to change your color. When would you change your color? When wouldn't you change your color? I change my colors in the design process so I can see, do I want to use a blue background or a green background? But really what matters is the color that I put on my cutting mat to actually cut. But from a design perspective, I like to see it. Now, so you can see I changed the background color to blue. But I want to add a little bit more color to my card. So back up to my edit panel I go. I'm going to come across to this icon here that says offset. Now, what offset does is it adds a layer to your canvas of a layer that you've selected that's either a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. I can use this sliding bar here to enlarge my offset or reduce my offset. So on this image, I'm going to change it to about a 0.05 width distance from the flower and apply that offset to my flower. When I apply that offset, I have another new layer. And that layer shows up in my layers panel right here. So this is now a background layer to my flower. So I've added an offset. It gives a little bit more dimension to my flower. You can change the color if you want by going up to your edit bar. That kind of looks good with the black there. I kind of like that. I changed mine in my card I made to like another yellow color to match the centerpiece, but I'm kind of liking that black. Okay, so now if the other element you might want to add to your project is text, and text works as a layer just like images or shapes. So again, we go back to our design panel, we click on the text icon and a text box appears. In the text box, you can begin typing whatever words you want to add to your canvas. And you'll notice that there is a new layer of edit functions. So all of this row of edit functions all relate to your text box. So up here, you could change the font, you could change the style, the size, your letter spacing, your alignment, your curve. All that you want to do to your text is right here in this edit bar. So I can change this to the word spring and add that to my card here. And then I added another text box and I said, hello, but I kind of wanted to make it a little bit different. So I went to that curve function on the edit bar and I curved my text. Now with the curve function, you can either curve it so it looks like the outside edge of a plate or the inside edge of a plate, either way, a frowny face or a smiley face. If you go to the left, it makes it curve down. If you go to the right, it makes it curve up. And then also with text, I can change my text. Some texts have a lot of different choices of the style of that text. I can change my text to a writing style, and then up in my edit bar, you can see here, I have my operations. It's going to write it out with a pen, and I've selected the color black. So you can change the color if you want to from that drop-down menu or leave it the same way. If you don't have a pen today, you can cut this out of cardstock, whatever works for you. Now, once I have my pen layer added to my canvas, I want to attach the hello to the inside of my card so that it writes on the inside of my card. So again, I need to go back to my layers panel, select the hello, select the card, and attach those two layers together. So those are attached together. And now I'm ready to go ahead and send my card to my machine to cut it. And here you can see the different layers of the 4 different layers of the card. And I didn't take a screenshot of this one. This is our petals here, but I'm going to show you guys when we go into Design Space how to use some of those other action icons at the bottom of your layers panel so you don't get each petal. You don't have to cut each petal. All right, so let me stop sharing this, and I'm going to look. I'm going to look a little bit at actually, I see Anita's done a fantastic job. I don't have any questions to answer. So I'm going to invite everybody to go ahead and open up Design Space. If you have any questions, I'm going to pause for just a minute while everyone gets Design Space opened. And if you have any questions, you can pop those in there. I'm going to start off in my home screen here. So I've got my Design Space going. All right. Is everybody ready? Let's go ahead and dive in. Now, you may not be in a place to cut right now, but I'd go ahead, if you can, go ahead and create with us. I do have this saved in my profile as a project, and we'll share that project link and the image link in the chat for you if you want to just kind of make it a little easier. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and we're going to go into Design Space. Now, this is my home screen, and it changes all the time. So you always see something kind of fun and new on your home screen. From here, I'm going to go ahead and click New Project. Now, what that will do is that will open up my canvas. Uh-oh, lost my screen. That's going to go ahead and open up my canvas. So with a fresh canvas, the first thing we want to do is add a rectangle to our canvas to make the base of our card. Okay, so I'm seeing this question, black and offset did not outline petals. Why? I'm not exactly sure on your specific why it's not working on yours, but I'm going to show you a trick on those petals. So you might want to hold off on that. And okay, let's go ahead and get started. Some of you are ahead of us. You were crafting while we were doing that. So that's okay. I'm going to use it. So you can see here in the shapes, you have this round corner square, you have a regular sharp corner square, and then you have a round cornered rectangle. If you want your card to have rounded corners, you can go ahead and select the rectangle, but I'm going to select the square, and that square is going to come onto my canvas at 2 inches by 2 inches. So our card, I'm going to make it 4.5 inches by 9 inches. And this will allow you to cut it on a Cricut Joy, an Explorer, a Maker. So whatever machine you're joining us with, you'll be able to cut the project with your machine. Now, to change the size of my square to a rectangle, what I'm going to do is go up to my edit bar, unlock my proportions, and here I'll change my width to 9 inches and my height to 4.5 inches. And that will become the base of my card. Now, you can change from here. You can keep it this gray color if you'd like, or you could go up to your edit bar and change your color to blue or whatever color paper you have. Okay, so good question. Barb is asking, what is the largest size paper I can cut on my Maker machine? So Barb, the widest is 11.5 inches. Your length is depending on what your material is, but the widest is 11.5 inches, and the widest on your Cricut Joy is 4.5 inches. So those are the limitations on your machines there. Okay, so we've got our rectangle on our machine. Now, if you're doing a Cricut Joy, don't add the score line because it'll trip you up when we go to cut it. If you have an Explorer or Maker, we're going to want to go ahead and add that score line right in the middle of our card. So your score line is in the shapes. So you go back over to your design panel, you click on the shapes icon, and you click on the line. Now that line will come onto your canvas as a horizontal line, and vertical line, and you just need to change the height of that line. So the height of the line comes in at 2.5 inches. Our card is 4.5 inches tall. So we're going to change the height of this line to 4.5 inches, making it as tall as our card. Now you can pick up your line and bring it over and try and get it right in the middle of your card, but I'm going to show you a simple way to do that. On your canvas, click anywhere on your canvas and drag your cursor across that score line and your rectangle. Releasing your mouse over the shapes will select both of those shapes. And you can see in your layers panel, I have both shapes selected. So now with both shapes selected, I'm going to head back up to my edit bar, select the align icon, and I'm going to center the score line on my card by choosing the center here. And that puts the score line right in the middle of my card. So let me show you that one more time. You click anywhere on the canvas with your mouse, drag your mouse over the score line and the rectangle and release. And then up at your edit bar, you're going to say align and center. Now, if your score line didn't move, double check that you have both layers selected in your layers panel today. So you want to have both of those layers selected. And while both of those layers are selected and you have that score line right in the middle of your card, right where you want it to go, then go ahead at the bottom of your layers panel, select attach. And we're going to attach that score line right to the card. And you'll notice now up in my layers panel, it says attach. I can now click on or off that shape and then move it around my canvas together. I like to layer my my layer sometimes, so we're not confused. I'm going to call this card base. So this will be the base of my card. And I just double click where it said attach, and then you can change the wording there, whatever you'd like to change it to. Okay, so now you can either do the text for the inside of the card now, or we're going to grab the image. Why don't we go ahead and grab the image? So we're going to go to the design panel again and click on that hot air balloon. That's our images icon. So when I click on there, I'm going to add, let me just see, have we added? Let me add this onto the chat. So if you need the image number, I just put it in the chat. You can copy and paste it. But what I'm going to show you is we're just going to do a search, a keyword search for the word daisy. And if you have design space, then you can use the same image I'm using, or you can filter by free and find a different daisy to work with. I think I've got, let me go here. So let's see daisy. And I'm just going to, it's only giving me one. There we go. There's all my daisy options. So I've got all the daisy options come up. Again, you can filter by free, or you can scroll down. This cute little daisy, I love this one, is the third one down. To select that daisy, you just click on it and you add to canvas. Now, once that's on my canvas, I can just grab that and see that it's going to fit right on my card. So now I have all the layers I'm going to need to make my card. But what I want to show you, and this is kind of important, so I want everybody, if you can put your eyes on your Zoom screen so you can see this step, because it might trip you up. So if you look in your layers panel, your daisy, this design is all grouped together. And I know it's all grouped together because I have this drop down arrow. And if I click on that drop down arrow, it closes that stack. But all of this is grouped together. Now, each of these petals will be an individual cut, and each one will cut individually if I send it to my cutter right now. But I like to have it, first of all, I want to do the offset on it. And then secondly, I want to, instead of sending it to my printer, and sending it to my cutter and having it kind of show up in a different order, I want it to show up in the exact order as it is on my canvas. So I'm going to go to my layers panel, and I'm going to select the grouped layer of all the daisy petals. And I'm going to use a function in my layers panel at the bottom. I'm going to use that action called combine. And when I click on the combine action, I want to weld these pieces together. Now, what welding does is it permanently puts those pieces together on one layer. So right now, each of those petals is on a separate layer. So I'm going to weld those together and put those together on one layer. So watch this, and then I'll do it again so we can do it together. I select the daisy layer, and it's got, you can see I've got the dark header color here, and then all these petals are selected because they're the lighter green. And I'm going to say combine and weld. And that's going to weld all of those daisy petals together now into one layer. And I'll hide this so you can see. See, now all those are together. I can move them on my canvas. They are now a single layer. Now that I have them welded together, now I can add that offset which will do the outline around the letters. So with that daisy layer selected, I go back up to my edit bar, I select that offset, and I can change it. You can see that little blue line. It'll show you how big it's going to be. I always like a narrow offset. So I'm going to change that to like a 0.05 and hit enter, and that applies it. Now I can add that there. Okay, so that was a lot of steps, and I had everybody watching my canvas. So I'm going to go back and we'll do it together. Oh, Karen, good question. How do you know that the daisy will cut in separate petals? I know the daisy is going to cut in separate petals because when I look at the daisy in my layers panel, each of these petals is its own layer. So I could attach them together as well as weld them together. I like to weld it together because then I know it's not going to move around. But if I send it to my prepare screen, see how they've now moved around and now they're all haphazard on my prepare screen. So that's going to make it a little bit harder for me to put it back together when I get there. So that's how, so I know they're going to cut individually because they're all separate layers. They're grouped together on my canvas, so they'll stay together and they won't move around on the canvas individually. But when I go to cut it, it will cut it individually. I can attach these together or I can weld them together. And I'm choosing the weld function because I want to do that offset function with it. So I've got the petals selected. I've got that layer of grouping selected. I'm going to go down to the bottom of my layers panel and select weld. Now with all those layers together, all my petals now are on one layer. Go to your edit bar, select that offset function, and you can change, you can use the dragger here and go bigger. If you want to add a color inside your petals, you can do that. I'm just going to add it at 0.05, my distance, and I hit enter, and you can see that blue line, so it's real small, and then I hit apply, and that adds that offset to my canvas, and I am loving that black. So I think I'm going to grab some black paper and keep that black like that. And you can even, if I wanted to add another layer, I could do an offset layer on the square here and add another black layer if I wanted to on the square on this one, or I could do, you can even do an offset with pen. So if I wanted to, I could do an offset layer inside on the yellow and change that to a pen. So the offset function, there's so many ways you can really play with that. And I want to encourage you, now that this is like a little introduction into it, to go ahead and keep playing with it. Okay, so my front of my card is all done. It's all designed. It's ready to go. I can select all of my layers, group those back together. Oops, let me bring that offset in there. See how I can just drag and drop my layers? Now with these layers together, I can just move that off of my card, and now I can add my text box onto here. So we're going to go to the design panel and add text. And my first text is going to be spring. And I'll just bring that right over. So Carol is asking, what layer did you click to get the offset? Carol, I first took my flower, the daisy, I weld those layers together to make them into a single layer. And then I selected that daisy welded layer. Oops. I selected that daisy welded layer to add the offset to it. Okay, so I've got my spring. Now I can do it uppercase, I can do it lowercase, you can do it however you want spring to be. So go ahead and add a text box to your canvas with your word spring or whatever. And yes, Karen, you can add an offset to your text. So if you wanted to, with your word spring selected, you hop on up here and I can add a 0.05, or you might want to go a little bit bigger. Let's do a little bit bigger there, and I could apply that to my spring. So I might change those colors to a green and the spring to a white. Something like that you could do. Add that onto your canvas. But I'm not going to do that for my project today. The next layer I want to add is the word hello onto my canvas. So I'm just going to go and add another text box and type in the word hello. Now, I did this text box separately from the spring text box because I want to convert this style to a writing style. So the Cricut Sans font has all the different styles, and I love this. It's a real simple font to use. So I'm going to change that to hello, and I'm going to change that to a writing file. And then I'm just going to come up to the curve and curve that on the edit. So I can curve it as, you can go as big a curve as you want or as little a curve. Oops. And you can really just have fun with it. Have fun with your curves. I'm going to do a 3-point curve, just a little curve there. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So let me just change that to say a 0.5. Oh, that's tiny. Let's do 0.75. Make it a little bit smaller there. I could add that to the end of my word spring, and then you could just kind of rotate that around, or you could add it to the curve on the curve of the S there if you wanted to, and you could just rotate that around like that too. And so it would kind of hug around spring. You'd have to make it smaller. But what I'd like to do is add that to the center of my card. So we're going to go ahead and let me get that back where it was, right there. So I want the hello and the spring to be centered on top of each other so that I can position it on my card. Now, also with the font and your edits, you can change your letter spacing. So if I want to bring these letters a little bit closer together, I just go up to the edit bar and kind of bring those in a little bit closer together. And then I'll take the word hello and the word spring, and I'll align those again. We're going back to that align tool, center horizontal. And you can even from here, if you had multiple layers, you could get your distribution properly done. If you had like 3 or 4 layers, you could do it that way. And then, so I just need to bring that hello or the spring up a little bit. I think I kind of want to just go like that. And then I'll realign those together. Now, just like we did the dotted line, the score line, we want that to stay exactly where we have it on the card. I want the word hello to stay exactly where I have it. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and grab my written hello and the square, the rectangle, which is my card, and attach those together. So now when I send it to my machine, those will stay together on my card. And I won't get a different layer. Oops, I don't want to put that in there. All right. Now I'm seeing lots of questions because I know I did that pretty quickly. So let me just double check on some of these questions. Every time I try to weld the daisy, it disappears. The box remains, but the daisy is gone. So Carol, what might be happening? When you adjust a layer, that layer pops to the top of your layers panel. So either the daisy, if you can still see your weld result of the daisy, which it's white, so it's kind of hard to see on your canvas. Let me just change that to like pink so you can see it on my canvas here. When you, it could also be that your weld result is behind your square. So like if this drops down behind my square layer, I can't see it because it's like, you have to think of it like that stacked 7-layer dip. So you may have to just grab your daisy and bring it back up in your order of your layers panel. So it's now back up on the top. Hopefully that helps. So that may be why it's disappearing. It may just be dropping down or not moving up. Okay, so if you're with me, we are ready to go ahead and send this to our machine to cut. And again, if doesn't matter which machine you're using, you'll be able to cut this size card. So I'm going to go ahead and click Make It. Now, what you'll see is I have all the different layers. So I have my white layer here, my black layer, because I'm going to keep that black outline. Then I have my little yellow dot. I have my yellow rectangle, and then my blue card with the score line in the middle and the word hello that's going to use a pen to write it right on there. Now it's going to start with my white layer. And if you're using the same colors as I am, it should be in the same order. This is now the next screen is where we prepare our material choices. So from here, you choose your materials. If you're on an Explore Air, you'll have the rotating dial. So you can just rotate the dial to whichever material you're using. And my first layer, like I mentioned, I'm going to use Cricut's Smart Cardstock because my first card, I cut out each individual letter and I had to glue it together. So I wanted to show you how to make it a little easier using Cricut's Smart Cardstock. So let me just find this. Smart Paper Sticker Cardstock. That's a mouthful, huh? But that's what I'm going to use for my white on this go round. You may just be using white cardstock and that's perfectly okay. And then everything else is going to be a medium weight cardstock. So let me go ahead and stop sharing this. Before I go to my machine, let's see, I had my paper to show you all the different weights of paper so that you can know what weight of paper to cut. But if you got the Michael's pack of cardstock, here it is. Here we go, I found it. All right, if you got the Michael's pack of cardstock that was in your supply list, this is a lightweight paper. I think it's a 60-pound weight paper. So what I like to do to test my paper to make sure I have it cutting at the right dimension, this is a very light cardstock. This is almost copy paper weight. So I would cut this at copy paper and see how flimsy it is in my hand. Even when I put my hand behind it, it kind of flops over a bit. So that would be like, I would do that like copy paper weight. This one is the this one is the Michael's pack, this 100 different recollections pack of paper. I love having that on hand. It has so many different colors. But this one, I can give it a little support and it stays there. But if I kind of like let my hands go a little bit, it still flops quite a bit. This is an 80-pound cardstock. It holds very nicely. And if I flop it, it doesn't quite flop as much. It still flops. It's always going to flop, but it's not quite as much. So I'm actually using an 80-pound on some of the paper I have today. So 80-pound, or which is a medium or lightweight, depending on what kind of paper you're using. So I hope that helps because I get that question quite a bit of like, what paper do I cut it? All right, I'm still here. I'm just switching over to my overhead camera. There we go. All right. Okay, so the first material I'm going to cut is my white cardstock. My white sticker cardstock out of this pack. This is a 12 by 12 and it has the adhesive on the back of it. So for my first layer, I'm not even going to have to be using my adhesive. So I'm going to remove my clear pack there. And let me just go like this so you guys can see how I set my paper. When I'm doing, now this is smart. So I don't know if I have it set to cut on a mat or not. Let me just double check. Yes, I have it set to cut on my mat. Okay, so I'm just going to give myself a little bit of this, maybe like 4 inches to cut it. I could just put this right in my machine and cut because it is smart paper and I have a Maker 3 here that I'm using. So I could just put that right in there. But I also have my mat and I just need a little bit. So I'm going to put this on my mat and I use my brayer to kind of push it down onto my mat. When you're working with paper, you really want to make sure that it is adhered to your mat and it's not going to wiggle around on you. You don't have to use a brayer. You can use your scraper, you can use your hands, you can use a rolling pin. You just want to make sure whatever material you're putting down, it's not going to wiggle on your mat for you.
Kesley, while that's cutting,
Yeah.
could you maybe go back over selecting just the daisy petals
Yes.
and how to weld that? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Let me see which one. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure I'm sharing the right one. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's not the right one. Okay, sorry. Let me stop sharing. Anita, let me open up another. I'm going to show you guys, if you don't know this feature, this is like the best thing. Sometimes I might be, sorry, I keep showing the wrong thing. Sometimes I might be cutting one project, but I want to be designing another project. So I just go into my Cricut and I will open up a new window. And this gives me a whole different window to work on. Now, you can only cut from one window at a time, but in just a second here, it'll open up a new Cricut window for me, and I can start a new project here. So that it'll give me my blank canvas. And then I'm going to add that daisy image. I don't need to have the card, do I, Anita? Is it just the image they're having the?
Just the weld part.
Okay. So I'm just going to grab that daisy image and we'll walk through that again. And honestly, guys, once you get weld and slice and all those tools, you have to just use them a little bit to keep them in your mind of how they work. So this, I'm going to ungroup this design so we can work with the different layers. Now I have the rectangle piece here, so I don't need that.
Your computer screen is actually still showing the cutting. Oh. I don't know if you need to choose a different screen.
Oh, I do. You're right. I absolutely do. Okay, thank you. There we go. Here's my screen here. So thank you, Anita. Anita's the best. I wish I had her all the time in my ear. I'm going to move that rectangle right there so we don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to move the dots. We don't have to worry about that. Now, the petals, these are all individual petals. So if you look at my layers panel, you'll see each individual petal. I could ungroup this group of daisy petals, and then I could select one petal at a time and move them around. I don't want to do that. I want to actually keep this group together. Now, the difference between group and attach. Group on your canvas allows your images to stay together on your canvas, but when you send it to your cutter, it moves them around. If you want to make sure your pieces stay where you have them, you need to attach them together. So with this daisy selected, just the daisy flower, I went to the bottom of my layers panel and I selected attach. And now, I'm sorry, I didn't select attach, I select weld, because I wanted to take all these different 8 or so layers and merge them into a single layer. So I could use unite or weld. I tend to use weld. I think it's just a personal preference. And now my daisy layer here is all together. So that's all one layer. Okay, let me show you that one more time. I have each of these petals is an individual layer in my layers panel. I'm going to use my mouse and select all the layers. And you just want to double check that all the layers are selected. And then you select the combine and weld. And that, you see how quickly that changed them all onto one layer. Then with that one layer selected, now I did have to go back and select the layer. I don't know if you guys noticed that. After it did the weld, I didn't have that bounding box around my flower anymore. So I had to select that layer and choose the offset function. And now I can change my offset to be however big I want it to be, and then apply that offset to my flower. So I hope that that helps. Okay. Let me just check on my design space and see what layer I'm supposed to be cutting next. It's my black layer. Okay. So we'll come back over here. I'll cut out my black layer. Now I'm seeing some good questions on here. What is the difference between unite and weld? So when you weld your layers together, you're permanently combining them into a single layer. And once they're welded together, you can no longer move them, change them down the road. So let's say you've done your flower and you want to come back and change out some petals or change something to each individual layer. Once you've welded it together, you can no longer change it. So Unite is a good option in that case because you can choose Unite, save your project, and then always go back and change your, you can always go back and change that layer down the line. So weld makes it permanent. Unite, you can change it and adjust it. And with the Unite, you have a couple different options on how it unites. So you like that is a whole class all in itself, is how the Unite works. How are you able to label on the screen? Amy, great question. In the layers panel, you can select a layer by double clicking on it with your mouse, and then using your keyboard, you can change the name. So like you may, if our outline here layer, you may, instead of having it called offset, you may want to call it like outline on your layer. Okay, so there's my background, and I'm going to unload that. I always turn my mat upside down and remove my mat from my cardstock. That allows me to, so that my cardstock doesn't curl. So I always like to give you that little tip there. Always turn your cardstock upside down to remove it off of your mat. Okay, I got to go back and look at my colors here. My next one is my dark yellow color, and that's going to be my circle. So I'm going to put that down. Now my cardstock I'm using has a little bit of a texture to it, and I like to make sure that my texture is going the same direction on all of my cardstock I'm using. So if you have like a texture on your cardstock, you want to make sure that you're getting that texture all in the same direction. That makes sense. So like I always like to put my texture facing up or my texture facing down. My next one's going to be my light blue. Okay, let's see some good questions. When I have all those layers on my canvas and want to put them all back together, how to get everything centered again on the daisy? So that's a really good question. A lot of times I just eyeball that to get it centered back because it's not a symmetrical design. So it's not going to necessarily, you can't use your align tool. But if I'm not cutting them on top of each other, I don't really worry about it too much. So like if my circle didn't line up perfectly, I'm not going to worry about that too much because I don't have to, I'm going to glue it, like I'm going to be gluing my center onto my daisies. So I'm not worried that it's not lined up perfectly on my canvas, if that makes sense. But otherwise, I just eyeball it. Let's see, I think I messed up my card base to be able to cut, then draw the letters. I welded them. How should it have been? So you could weld your letters if you like, Lauren, are you talking about you welded hello together in one layer? And that would be.
I think she welded the hello to the card base along with the score line, which made them disappear.
Oh, okay, right, because that takes all those three individual layers and makes them one layer. So what you should have done was attach, and attach puts those layers all together on your, the attach holds the position, but it doesn't merge them into a single layer. That makes sense. Okay, so for my card, the first thing I need to do, my blue layer, this is the base of my card. I'm going to add my pen to my A clamp so that it can draw the word hello. And then since I'm on my maker, I'm going to be using my scoring wheel. If you don't have a scoring wheel, you would just put the stylus in your A clamp when it gave you that clue. When it prompts you, not clue, it'll prompt you to put that in there. So I'm prompted to put my pen and my scoring wheel in. Now, if you don't have a scoring wheel and you're on a maker, you would just edit your tools and say, I'm not going to use the scoring wheel. I'm going to use the stylus. So with the maker, it automatically assumes that you have the scoring wheel, but you can change it to say, nope, I'm not going to use the scoring wheel. I'm going to use the stylus. Could you group the daisy items together when designing? Rebel, yes. The daisy, when you bring in that image, those items are already grouped together. So you can just keep them grouped together on your canvas. But if you don't attach or weld the individual daisy, it will just cut it across your canvas, which I'm going to show you my trick and why I like to attach. I can't show it on this card because I'm using the sticker paper, but like once it cuts out, I put it back in the cutout so I know exactly where each petal is going to go on my card. So it can get tricky sometimes getting all those petals back together. Okay, now I'm switching back over to my flat pen here. I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to cut that off. All right, now we only have a few minutes to put this together. Felicia, how are we on time? Karen, yes, this class will be posted in the recording will be posted on Michael's YouTube channel, and you'll be able to go back and make the card, stop and pause it as you go, however you feel comfortable crafting.
Hey, Kesley, we're almost at the top of the hour, but you are well enough to go over if you need to.
Okay, great. Because the reason I asked is I want to just make sure everybody who is cutting with me today gets it cut. And then if we have time, I don't want to be a time hog. I do have a little project just that I showed you the iron-on, how to use this design with iron-on material. Okay, so I've got my hello and my card, and I'm just going to go ahead and give that a nice little press on my score line. If you didn't have, if you're like using your Joy, the Joy does not have the scoring tool. And if you need to add your score line, you need to do it manually. So this is my cheat. I use my cutting mat, and I use the raised edge here that is created with my cutting mat to give me a score line. So I'll turn my cutting mat over, and I will take if this were my card, I'd put where I want that score line to be. And then I would use, if you have a weeding tool, you can use the back of your weeding tool here and just run it right along the edge of your mat. And that gives you your scoring line right there. Now, if you have a paper trimmer, most paper trimmers have this. Cricut, the black blade on the back is your scoring blade. So you could trade out your scoring tip for your cutting tip and just score it that way. If you lost that or you don't have that piece, you can always use the little ridge here of your cutting board and just run the back of your weeding tool along there. You can use a credit card, a nail file, anything that is not too sharp to give you that score line. So that's how that works. Okay, so now I've got my word hello right there, and we're just going to assemble this together. So I'll do the front first, and we've got our yellow. I've got my yellow card that's going to go right on the center. So with this, I eyeball it. I don't use a ruler to make sure I'm exactly 1/8 of an inch around. So I put my adhesive on the back with the tape runner. And if you have liquid adhesive, that's fine. I don't really recommend using like an Elmer's type of adhesive on your paper because it's a water-based adhesive. So I like to use a tape runner. Now with something like this, with these weird shapes, I might use my Zig 2-way glue pen or the Tombow glue, or you can just use your tape runner. And I'm just going to hit each of these petals and make sure I'm getting that all set up like that. And I just line that up with the edge there. Okay, now this is the fun part. So if you use paper, each of your petals would be individual. Now I would put my piece, this is my trash, but I bring it back and I put all my petal pieces in there so I knew exactly where they went. And I would just put adhesive either in the center here or turn it over and use my two-way glue on there again. This is the Cricut sticker cardstock. So it's a cardstock, but it is a sticker. And remember, there's an offset all the way around each layer here. So I've got to leave a little bit of a gap on all sides as I put this down on the card. So I just leave about 1/8 of an inch was my distance. So I can just look at how easy this goes down. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now this is where I messed up before. I didn't quite leave a gap on the end, but you want to make sure you leave that gap on the end here. So you don't, I'm always tempted to bring them right to the edge. I just need to do it like that. Now with my yellow inside piece, if you had a 3-dimensional dot, you could pop that on the inside and that would bring that up. I lost my dot. Do you guys do that ever? Like when you cut out things, you lose a piece? I've lost my little inside piece. But I think you guys will know how to do that. I can't find it on my table. But let me show you a trick. When you're putting, when you're trying to line something up on your card here, like the word spring, I'm going to take my sticker paper here and I'm going to roll it back so that let me see, I think I need to cut this down a little bit to get it to work. Do a little weeding. I'm going to take this the backing off. So I'm weeding it like I would as if it were iron-on material. My little eye there. Now, this is an old scrapbook trick. I'm going to put the base of my letters onto my ruler. So I'll turn this over and I'll fold.
Stop.
I'll fold this
I said
up.
stop.
And then we'll just go and put this right on the ruler. So I'm going to put this at like the 5-inch, put that right on the 5-inch line and get that right lined up like that. Then I'll remove my backing, my sticker backing, and I'll put that, I've got to get my eye, but I'm going to put that right on the center there. And I can press that part down and then slide my ruler out. Oops. Got to get that P back in there. See how easy that was and everything stuck together? Let's just put that P right there. All right. And then I just need to go back and grab my eye and put that on there. And then I need to find my little center of my yellow. There we go. So now I have I will find the center of my yellow here. It's got to be around here, but there's your card. How fun is that? And if you want to, like on my first card, I didn't quite think the hello was thick enough. I just went back with my pen and I thickened that letter those letters right up for me like that. And this is the opaque writer. And I don't think I mentioned this, but when you use your pens, you might have it set like at the fine point tip in your machine, but you can always, when you go to actually cut or draw with it, you can use whatever color you want. So you don't have, even though you have it like at the black fine point, you can always change it to whatever color you want to change it to, like that. And then you can just thicken it up if you want to or not. It's totally up to you. Isn't that cute? All right. I do have, if you have time to hang around, I'm going to show you one other project I used with this image because I always think it's fun to think about other ways to use your materials than just in one method. So on this one, I used, here we go. I cut felt. So I used Cricut's felt from this package, the Cricut Summer Sky sampler and I cut the blue. Now with this type of felt, it's thick enough that you can actually use your fine point blade on a maker or an explorer. If you have a maker, I tend to use my rotary blade to cut it out just because I have it and I can. So I use my rotary blade to cut out my felt. And then I used Smart Iron-On with white and yellow to make the flower. So this is the same flower we used on our card today. I did the center and I duplicated the center piece twice. And then I put a weld function on the center of the flower petals. So sort of like we did, but I added the center because I wanted that all to stay together. And then I'm going to position this on, this is going to be like a little piece for a banner, or my daughter, oh, there's my yellow. My daughter collects pins. So she could use this to hold pins if she wanted to from different locations and stuff. So I've got this like this. Now this is I mirrored my iron-on material and I'm placing that right on there. And I'll use the Cricut Heat Smart Guide. Oh, Alicia said, I just finished my card. Looks fabulous. Now, if you are on social media and you want to share the card, tag us, tag Michaels and Cricut. We'd love to see it. So I'm going to use the Cricut Heat Guide. And I just have to list my materials here. Now, because I'm using, I'm not using my Easy Press 3. I'm using an older version of Easy Press, and I'm doing that because I want to show you guys where the heat guide is. So if I open the heat guide, I'll be using the Cricut Easy Press 2, and I choose my material. So my first material is going to be Smart Iron-On. So I select my material and then I select my base material, which is felt. And I'll be using the Cricut Easy Press Mat, and it tells me to heat it up to 280 degrees. I hold it for 30 seconds. So I've got my Easy Press here and it's heated up to 280 degrees and it's already set for 30 seconds. So let me pull this up here so we can see. All right, so here's my Easy Press. It's at 280 degrees for 30 seconds. And now I'm just going to make sure I've got my daisy positioned right along the edge where I want her. Okay, and I'll just bring this over and I'll heat this up, turn it on, and I'm just gonna give a little press. Now, normally I would have preheated my felt, but I know we're set for time. Lena, for the felt, you just choose your material settings. When you choose your material to cut, you just choose the felt material and it cuts it so beautifully. I would test it to make sure it cut the first time. If not, you just hit the play button again and it'll make that same cut right over it. Okay, so I do now, once I'm going to let it cool for just a second here. Karen, the heat guide is a separate app. It's a blue app. It's Cricut Heat, and it's a blue app that you can just use whether you have the Easy Press 3 or an Easy Press 2. So you can use it either way. It's kind of, I like it because I can be away from my computer or in a different room, and I have that heat guide right there. So now I'm just going to peel off my backing, and I have my yellow dot. So I'm going to put that right in the center again. And this time, since I have my iron-on is exposed, I'm just using this Teflon sheet over it. If you have like a pressing cloth or an extra piece of like thin cotton material, you can do that too. And so I'm just going to let that heat up. And while that's heating up, why don't I put my dot on my card? So I'll just put a little glue on that. And I hope we got all of your questions answered, guys. Give me a follow in Design Space if you want to follow along to see other projects I'm creating. That may not have been the right dot. If you want to see other projects I've created in Design Space, or if you want either of these projects we've made today, we've got those in there. I'm Kesley, Kesley Anderson. And now all I'll do is fold this over like this. I'll put either fusible web here or a row of hot glue and just glue it down. And then I can put that right on a dowel and it'll hang up, and my daughter can put little pins on it, or it's just a cute little spring decoration. And there we go, guys. That's it. How fun. All right, let me just, oops. Thank you all so much. And thank you. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to get back to my camera. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. I'm so excited to hear that you created the project. Check it out. The video will be on the Michael's YouTube channel. So it's always a great time to rewatch the video, pause it, tell a friend, hey, I took this great class and I learned so much. And I'll see you next month. We've got some really fun classes coming up in March. I'll give you a sneak peek. One is how to throw a Cricut party for your friends. So I'm very excited about those. Thank you, everybody. I can't wait to see you in the next class. Have a fabulous week. And thank you, Felicia, for letting me go over, as always.